Hello everyone, my name is Brendan Meyer. That noise you're hearing is my ventilator, and welcome to Page Turners They Were Not, my Star Wars podcast. Today I would like to discuss the online movement to make a Solo 2 happen. Now, much has been said about the poor box office performance of Solo. Yet those people who've seen it know, or at least mostly agree that it's a good movie. We know that not a lot of people saw it. Now, if you'll permit me, I'm going to look up exactly Solo's box office earnings. To give you an idea. So a couple of weeks ago, Twitter was running with the hashtag Make Solo 2 Happen. And it actually gained some traction. Because even members of the cast of the movie were retweeting it. Now, according to Box Office Mojo, here's the numbers. Solo made $393 million on a $275 million budget. Now, that means it made more than $100 million more than what it cost to make the movie. However, we must also take into account marketing. And usually marketing on a movie like this, you have to add $100 million. And then you have to add the distribution costs that Lucasfilm and Disney paid to the theaters. Paid to Buena Vista, the distributor, and the theater chains. You add all these things up, and you are looking at a movie that still failed to make a profit. Now, this is very unfortunate, but the movie studios, Disney and Lucasfilm, are businesses. And don't fool yourself. Film is a business. There has been a lot of discussion online of the fact that film is an art, but also a business, and that makes it very tricky. No movie is made with the intent to fail financially. Let us look back at a period of American history called the American New Wave, or New Hollywood. And this is from about 1967 to 1983. With some of the great American movies coming out during that time, very much built on the auteur theory. Auteur is the French word for author. It was the idea of directors as authors of their movies. This is a big deal, and it created a lot of great artistic films. And it was a movement to break away from the more traditional kind of filmmaking into more unusual and more experimental mode. However, do not fool yourself. This was not just an art for art's sake time period. Hollywood allowed these movies to be made because they were profitable. Whenever someone uses the phrase, "oh, that movie's just a cash grab," I strongly object, because every movie is a cash grab. So, Solo did not make a profit. Therefore, I believe Disney and Lucasfilm would be reluctant to release another Solo film. Solo 2, I do not believe we will ever see in the theater. However, this brings me to my next point. Why not Solo 2 on Disney Plus? A streaming film. I believe that if Solo had come out on streaming platforms instead of in the theaters, it probably would have been more successful and less risky for Disney. Now, let me back up really quick. Solo had problems behind the scenes. The movie basically had to be almost entirely remade. And that is the reason it cost nearly $300 million to make. If Solo had not had the behind-the-scenes troubles, it would have made a profit. Not much of a profit, but a profit nonetheless. Studio executives, because they're businessmen, have to think financially. But I do believe that if Solo had been released as a streaming film, it would have been less risky. And might have cost less, because you didn't have to worry so much about marketing costs and distribution costs and the theater chains and all that stuff. So I believe Solo 2 may happen as a streaming movie. Now, Solo is a movie that I think would have been fine on the small screen. Because to me, it's not really the big event film like the other Star Wars movies. So the nature of the film in the theater, I think, may have been its downfall. Of course, maybe you could argue that all the reshoots were its downfall financially. Solo is still a good movie, to me, and many people who saw it, in fact, I think most people who've seen it really like it. So I can see why people would want a Solo 2. So, Solo 2 is a streaming movie, might be a good idea. But also, maybe there doesn't need to be a Solo 2. Maybe what there needs to be is some format, like a streaming show, to continue the legacy of what was established in Solo. As in, maybe a streaming show exploring some of the characters that we met in Solo and some of their further adventures, like Enfys Nest, like Kira, possibly Lando and Han and Chewie, and sort of see what further can be explored. Now, as you are aware, they're going to make a streaming series about Cassian Andor. Cassian was the male protagonist of Rogue One, played by Diego Luna. Now, Solo takes place 10 years before A New Hope. Therefore, one can assume, because of the time placement of Rogue One, that the Cassian Andor series will probably take place I'm going to say like 5 years before A New Hope. Therefore, 5 years after Solo. So, it is possible that the characters of Solo may meet with Cassian Andor and K2SO and the other characters of the Rogue One era. It's possible that even Saw Gerrera, played by Forrest Whitaker, may return. So, maybe it's not going to be a Solo 2. Maybe some of the characters of Solo will appear in the Cassian Andor series. Or maybe some of the characters from Solo will get their own series. Some people want to know what happens after Kira leaves Savareen to go meet with Darth Maul and Dathomir. These things could be explored in a streaming movie, a streaming series, or the Cassian Andor series could have some crossover with the characters of Solo. So these are the options that I think are wiser than a Solo theatrical film. Also, I do not believe that Disney and Lucasfilm would ever dare to put a sequel to Solo in the theaters, because they're worried about the financial problems, and rightly so. We shouldn't criticize them and say, oh, they're being cowardly, if they choose not to do a Solo 2 in the theater. They have to be keeping the business in mind. So I don't blame them one bit if they're reluctant to do one in the theater. And I don't believe that will ever happen. But as I said, because of streaming, because of Disney Plus, because streaming is the way of the future, we may get more content from Solo, just maybe in a different format than we might think. So those are my thoughts on what could happen with the future of Solo. I am extremely excited for Disney Plus because it looks like they may be able to do things on a streaming service that they wouldn't dare do in the theater. And I'm excited. So I hope that we do get more content from what we saw established in Solo. But I would be perfectly fine if it was not a theatrical movie. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Brennan Meyer. That noise you're hearing is my ventilator. Thank you for tuning in to Page Turners They Were Not, my Star Wars podcast. May the Force be with you.